Hey everybody, it's Michelle. I am here to talk to you about our Patreon page. This is the page that you can go to help support our podcast with a monthly donation. When you commit to supporting us, you can get additional bonus content such as extra podcasts, our favorite playlists, our show notes, and eventually we would like to have merchandise to sell like t-shirts and baseball caps, and we would let you have first dibs at those. Of course, because we are coffee moms, we are offering membership levels that are as follows: the coffee membership, the cold brew membership, or the espresso membership. Now, no pressure whatsoever, but if you do love our podcast and you would like to help support it, you can go to patreon.com/messybunmamaspodcast. That is Patreon, patreon.com/messybunmamaspodcast. There you can choose a membership level that works for you. Melissa and I want to thank you in advance for your love and your support.
Messy Bun Mamas. I'm Joe. I'm John. I am Malcolm. Wow.
Hello. Welcome to episode 14.
Yay! That wasn't as good. That was a little delayed. Woohoo! Episode number 14.
If you're just joining us, I'm Melissa.
And I'm Michelle.
And this is the Messy Bun Mamas podcast. And today we are talking about
allowing your children to fail. So hard as a controller.
Right? It's definitely hard, for sure. But before we get into that, let's go through our mama moments.
All right. You want me to start?
Yeah, I do.
Because I've been dying to tell this story.
Good. I love when they're like really exciting.
So, Joe and I last week went to the park with a friend.
Okay.
And we were there for a couple of hours. We came home and I had to let the dogs outside, and he said, I want to go out and back and play too. So I'm like, okay, no problem. Let him run all that energy off. Please, God, let him be to sleep by 7.
That's a tall order.
So I'm like, no problem. Well, I got down there, we let him out, and then I said, hey, Joe, mommy has to go potty real quick. Why don't you come in with me and go potty too? And he said, I mean, because it's been 3 or 4 hours at this point, I'm like,
it's a reasonable break.
Right. I'm like, and he will, like, if he will hold his pee for hours and hours and hours. And so
I did the same thing when I was a kid.
Yeah. And so so I'm like, why don't you come upstairs? And he's like, no, I don't have to potty. And I said, Joe, come on. And because I didn't want to have to do the hassle of turning on the security cameras so I could watch him. And so he's like, no, I'm going to stay out here and play. I'm like, fine. So as I'm walking up the stairs, I turn on the blink and I'm sitting there watching him. And all of a sudden, just like real quick, I hadn't even gotten up to the bathroom. I see him running towards the door. And then I hear the door open and close. I don't hear anything else. I'm like, Joe? Nothing. So I use the speaker on the security camera and I'm like, Joe? And he's like, Mom, I pooped. Oh. Let mommy take care of her business. I'll be right down.
I'll be with you in a moment.
Right. So take care of myself. I go downstairs and we're talking literal, just like not even 5 minutes for all of this to take place.
Since you like asked him,
right.
Like, hey, dude.
And so I'm like, I'm irritated.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, this was not new. He knew when I was talking to him, he had to poop. So
right.
I go downstairs and I'm not thinking, I don't take the wipes with me. I think I was just thinking I need to check out what the circumstances are. And I get to the door and I open up the door and I say, come here, let mommy look at you. And he said, no, I pooped. And sure enough, I looked down as he's saying it. I look down and on the ground right outside the door are these huge turds. And I'm like, oh my God, Joe.
I mean, at least he didn't poop his pants.
Right. So I'm like, okay, well, number one, we now know that you don't have to take off your pants to poop, okay? Number two.
Amen. Remember that my 7-year-old still doesn't know that lesson.
And so I'm like, number two, mommy is happy that you knew you could make it up to the bathroom, so you took care of the matter. Number three,
in the backyard. They have a fenced-in backyard. It's like pretty big. And...
Well, he did it underneath the deck because, like, our back door comes out underneath the deck.
So he's basically an animal,
right? So he was in a covered location. It wasn't like he was out in the wild just pooping for the world to see. So I
feel like he would. Do that,
he would, because we had a whole conversation, which I'll also discuss. But that wasn't the icing on the cake. Here's the icing on the cake. As I'm like, all right, fine. Because he's standing there with his pants down, bare butt, like, wipe my butt, Mom. I'm like, all right, I got to run upstairs and get wipes. I run upstairs, I get wipes, take care of him. Here's the icing on the cake. We're walking back inside, and I'm like, Joe, do you have poop on your shoes? Let me see. And he shows me, and there's nothing. I look on my shoes. I had stepped in one of his poops.
Oh.
Dragged it all the way through the basement, up the stairs, into the bathroom, and back down.
Oh,
so, no. Not only did I have to dispose of his poop, I also had to go through and, like, clean all the floors, like, and the basement floor in the bathroom is not bad because that's like cement and linoleum, but like the carpet and steps was just horrendous. But I said to him, I'm like, Joe, no more pooping outside. And he said, well, the dogs poop outside. And I'm like,
are you a dog though?
Right. So that's what I said. I'm like, we're not animals. You can't poop outside. He said, but I pee outside.
Oh,
I'm like, I can't argue with you anymore. I'm done with this conversation.
And that's why I don't let my boys pee outside. Right. Well, not only that, but like I'm always terrified that we're gonna like be at a picnic or at the park, and they're just gonna like walk up to a tree and pee. And Mike's just like, boys pee outside, Melissa. It's not a big deal. And I'm just like, our boys remove their pants and underwear to pee or poop. They're not like a yank it down, whip it out, pee, and like pull the pants back up over it kind of kid. Maybe that comes with age. I don't know.
I'm wondering when it comes because I'm like,
can it come now, please?
Right, so tired of redressing my son every time he goes to the bathroom.
Or they pee on the floor, like, right? 98% of the time. So they remove all their clothes, put them at their feet,
and then completely miss the toilet.
And their clothes are covered in urine. So I'm just like, well, that was fun. How long has it been? 2 hours. So like honestly, like most of the time, I mean, so Malcolm's pretty much completely potty trained now. So this last week, Mike's been trying to get him like, okay, buddy, you're potty trained now. You need to wear underwear. You can't run around naked. And Malcolm's just like, I'm not about that life. I want to run around naked.
Wild and free.
Yeah. But the peeing and pooping outside,
that was
hilarious.
I was like, oh my God, you're going to make me say you can't pee outside anymore. And I just with as big as our yard is.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
But I mean, he's getting older at this point. He can probably identify when he has to pee. He just chooses not to. So
he probably can identify when he has to poop too. But
I'm very obviously it was that quick.
Yeah.
That slid out pretty quick, dude.
Exactly. Well, it's only it was diarrhea. Like he was sick. Like I feel like there are adults who like they'll get food poisoning or sick or whatever, and there's exceptions, but like no, you had to poop, dude.
That was all formed, so yeah. That was my moment of the week. I was like, oh my god, I can't wait to share this.
That's hilarious.
Oh, please tell me I'm not the only mom. So
I'm sure you're not.
Tell me your mom moment, Melissa.
So my mom moment this week is so this week we ended up doing like an evening where it was just me with Rayla and Malcolm.
Okay.
And we had to bring Sissy somewhere, so we dropped her off, and then it was just me and the two kids for like 2.5 hours. And I didn't really want to go anywhere. I didn't really want to spend a bunch of money. I did want to clean out my car.
Mm-hmm.
So we like go to the gas station and we're like getting rid of, because after winter, maybe I'm the only one, but crap accumulates in your car over winter.
Right.
Like there's just garbage, there's toys, there's hats, there's gloves, there's just
French fries.
Ugh.
Right.
It's gross. So we're like cleaning up the car or whatever, and Rayla's sitting in her seat, Malcolm's sitting in his seat. I got them dinner, and they're sitting there eating, and I found this really cool kids playlist on Spotify, so they were listening to that and everything. But as we go through the night, like they're fine. Well, then we went to go pick up Sissy, and she wasn't ready, so we were like hanging out in the lobby. So she's a teacher for an ESL class.
Okay.
So that's what she was doing. And we were waiting for her. So they're running around the lobby and they're just running and chasing and laughing and whatever. Well, Rayla falls at one point and she tries to get up and she's just like, ugh. All dramatic. Like my almost 2-year-old daughter is.
Right.
And Malcolm walks over and he's like, come on, Rayla, I'll help you. And
Aww.
he like takes both of her hands and like helps her up. And I was just like, it warmed my heart so much because it was just like, it was one of those genuine moments where it's like, I didn't have to tell him like, your sister just fell, go help up your sister.
He just naturally
naturally was like, oh, Rayla, I'll help you. And I was just like, why don't I have a video camera out? Why am I not recording this? So then I tried to recreate it and it didn't happen. But it was one of those moments. Like, do you ever have those moments where you're just like, wow, I'm not a crappy mom today?
Yes.
And that was the moment that did it for me.
The mom moment that I'm going to share for next week, it was definitely I high-fived myself. After the poop scene, I was like, oh, thank God, I'm not a terrible parent.
Right? So yeah, it was just, it was so sweet and so nice and whatever. And then, Rayla in dramatic fashion, she then starts fake falling. So Malcolm will help her up and it's just not the same, but yeah, it was so nice for him to like see that his sister was struggling and to like go back and help her.
Right.
So it was
see that the kindness after our discussion on manners and things like that, and seeing the kindness come out, and it's like, oh yeah, all right, I'm doing a great job.
Well, it's not just I feel like there's a certain level of, I'm sure super feminist people are probably not going to agree with this, but I raise my voice to protect their sister. Like, you are to protect your sister. I don't care if that's like not up to societal standards of like blah 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 blah, but
I think we've kind of passively discussed this before.
And so I mean, I know Rayla can get up on herself. Rayla knows she can get up by herself. But if Rayla falls and her big brothers are there, I would hope that they would help her up.
Right.
Literally or figuratively. So maybe it puts a lot of pressure on them that this is my expectation, but it's pretty clear that that's my expectation. And let me tell you, I grew up with two older brothers. And that was kind of their expectation, my parents' expectation of them too. And I don't think it was a toxic environment.
No.
I just think it kind of is what it is. Older brothers protect their little sisters.
And I think there's something to say that women should be empowered.
Yeah.
But we should also still be treated with respect and kindness.
Exactly. Absolutely. So we'll get into our topic after this short break.
Hey everybody, it's Michelle. I am here to talk to you about our Patreon page. This is the page that you can go to help support our podcast with a monthly donation. When you commit to supporting us, you can get additional bonus content such as extra podcasts, our favorite playlists, our show notes, and eventually we would like to have merchandise to sell like t-shirts and baseball caps, and we would let you have first dibs at those. Of course, because we are coffee moms, we are offering membership levels that are as follows: the coffee membership, the cold brew membership, or the espresso membership. Now, no pressure whatsoever, but if you do love our podcast and you would like to help support it, you can go to patreon.com/messybunmamaspodcast. That is Patreon, patreon.com/messybunmamaspodcast. There you can choose a membership level that works for you. Melissa and I want to thank you in advance for your love and your support.
And we're back.
Here we are.
All right, Michelle. So you can take the lead.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about allowing your children to fail. And so I did do some research on it, but a lot of the research basically says the same thing. You should let your kids fail.
Yeah.
Right? But the thing that comes down to it is it's hard as a parent to watch your kids fail.
Yeah. For sure.
Back to the whole toilet thing. I mean, I really hate it when he fails to make it into the toilet. That doesn't seem to bother him as much.
No.
But I was thinking, because the other day we played a game and Joe has really picked up on some very competitiveness from me. I try to be very low key about my competitiveness because I can be overboard.
Yeah.
Like, you suck, you loser, type thing. And so I try to be very low key, but Joe has really picked up on some of that.
Yeah.
And so when we play, he expects to let me win, or for me to let him win. And if he is losing, he will like clear the board.
So he'll like throw a fit.
Yeah, like, I mean, he'll like swipe the board, or we play this, I can't think of what the name of it is, but there's this game that we got him, and you put these like long tentacles, like octopus arms, on your fingers, and then there's cups, and you get these little patterned cards, and you have to stack the cups in the pattern that they are using the octopus fingers.
Okay.
And number one, I'm already allowing him to use his other hand to balance. And I'm at a disadvantage because I can't fit one of the tentacles on my thumb because I have, like, my husband says toes for thumbs.
That's a thing, toe thumbs.
And so, but like, he will take and just like knock all my cups down if I'm winning.
Yeah.
And so I've had several discussions with him on, hey, you can't win just because mommy lets you win. You've got to earn it. And that's just the way I feel about it. In fact, I think I asked this, or somebody had commented one other time on something I had posted, and I said, I'm okay with teaching my kid how to win.
Yeah.
But once they understand the concept of the game, it's game on. And I don't care that I'm 45 or 44 and you're going to be, and you're 4. You got to earn it.
This is so hilarious.
You've got to earn it. And so, but I've really stepped back and I've thought about it because I'm like, am I just being mean to him? And
you guys didn't hear my eyes.
Right. So, but it really got me to thinking, because then a few weeks ago in church, for our table talk, Sister Cammie talked about allowing your children to fail and how healthy that is. And I'm like, all right, I'm a good parent. I let my son lose. But I have really felt that it goes beyond just the game. I think it sets up a mentality for life that just because I failed at something doesn't mean that the world is coming to an end. I get up and I work harder and I try to do it again. And that's very much me. Like, even if I'm helping him play a Mario game and there's a level that I'll say, hey, you know what, Joe? Because I can feel like my frustration coming up. Let's turn this off. We'll come back and play again tomorrow. And then the next day I'll be like, all right, dude, we can do this. But I'm trying very hard to teach him that you just come back and you try again.
Yeah. And
maybe you change up how you were doing it or something like that. But so a couple of questions that I did find in an article that I read that they should that you should ask your kids when they have failed, to kind of help them think through the process of what they can do. Because I'm gonna let him fail at stuff. And I've even been pushing him, like when we're drawing and stuff, like if he'll say, oh, Mom, draw me a house. Nope. I know you know how to make a square and I know you know how to make a triangle. Draw your own house. So, because, and he'll, and I understand because I'm OCD too. I want it perfect, right?
Yeah.
So I kind of see where he's coming from with this, but I'm like, no, you try it, you do it. And then if you need help, then Mommy will tell you how you can do, talk you through it. But I thought that these 3 questions were really good, and something that I'd probably use going forward in life when like bigger things come up.
Yeah. So
the first one is when your kid has failed at something, you ask them, what part did you play in this? So what was your role? If you failed an exam or a test, what was your role in doing that? What did you prepare for? How much did you prepare for it? What effort did you put into it? Or even other things. I mean, and
I think that's really important, especially when it comes on team stuff.
Yes. With accountability, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like that is something, when I did work in corporate America, that a lot of people lack at this point, is accountability, is what was I supposed to put into that?
Yep.
So I think that was a really good question. And then question number 2 was, what are you going to do differently next time? So not just accountability. This should have been my action. I guess it just takes that accountability further to the next level. This is what I should have done, or what I was supposed to do, and this is what I can do next time.
Yeah.
And they don't say you shouldn't help them brainstorm ideas. It's probably a good, healthy thing to help them,
depending on their age.
Depending on their age, helping them brainstorm some ideas of what they can do. But and this is what's hard for me, because I am
competitive.
I'm competitive, and I'm a controller and all the bad negative things. I want to say, this is what you need to do to do it. So it's just opening up options. Well, you could try this, or you could try this, or do you have an idea?
Yeah.
Or even making them give out ideas before you give out your ideas. And then the third question is, what did you learn from this?
Yeah.
And I think I see, I guess what made me think of this is I see in him that he has a thought in his head of, if I fail, I'm done. And I don't want that to be what he discovers in life. Because I mean, once you get out into adulthood, dude, you can't just give up. I mean,
you can, but you're not going to get very far.
I'm not gonna lie, we have our pajama days where I just
Yeah.
sit and snack and eat all day, but that's one day. Next day, let's get up, get dressed, and let's move on with life.
Yeah.
So and I don't know, I guess that's just kind of where I am with this. I want to teach him. And I started watching I think it's called The Young Rock, and it's on NBC, and it's about Dwayne Johnson
Yeah.
running for president. FYI, if this were true, I'd probably vote for you. I don't care what your political party would be. So, but from my understanding, it sounds like a lot of the stories he talks about, like, his history, where he being poor and stealing because he didn't want to be poor, and always having to put on a show,
Man,
type
look
of
how
thing.
far that guy has come.
Right. And so I told Dan the first couple episodes, I'm like, man, I kind of think that I think these stories might be true. And so, then some more of the stories I was telling Dan, hey, what did this happen? Blah, blah, blah. And he's like, yeah, that really happened in his life. And I'm like, so these are true stories. I mean, I'm sure some of it's,
well, yeah, it's probably embellished,
but
it's based on true events.
Right. So, but one of the scenes is when he was in college, he got sidelined before his freshman year of football even started. He had gotten a scholarship and everything. Yep. And he went home depressed at the end of the semester, and his dad took him out and he said, all right, we gotta talk. And he says, I failed, Dad. I failed. I don't. Was
that when he hurt his knee?
No, shoulder. Oh, shoulder. It was a shoulder.
Yeah, I knew he got injured in college.
And so, well, in the show, it's his shoulder.
Yeah, I don't know what happened.
And so, but his dad says to him, he says, son, you're gonna fail. And it's not failing that's important. And I mean, we've all heard this in some shape or form, right? But he said it's not failing that you should be focused on. It's how you handle the failure that you should be focused on. Are you going to get up and learn from this and move on? Or are you going to just sit and wallow in your self-pity? And so, I mean, those weren't his words, but
they were, though.
Right.
It was just said pretty.
Right. It was said very, very eloquently. And so, I don't know, it's just like the last few weeks, like all of this stuff has been coming together with some of my thoughts on that. And so I'm like, you know what? I'm going to just continue to allow him to fail at life. And I mean, not like in big ways.
Yeah.
I mean, if he's running towards the busy street, I'm going to tell him to stop.
That's not failing, though. That's safety.
Right. Yeah. I would be failing if I allowed him to walk. Right? So how about you? What are your thoughts on letting your kids fail, Melissa? I'm pretty sure you probably somewhat agree with me.
Yeah. So one day we'll disagree, but today's not that day. The only facet that I think that wasn't completely touched on is teaching your children sportsmanship.
Yes.
I've been in competitive environments with kids lately because of Bible quizzing, and we have some kids who struggle with having good sportsmanship. And I mean, if anybody's ever met my brother, and I can talk smack about him because I found out he doesn't listen to my podcast. But his wife does, so I was like, well, I talk about you all the time. And he's like, oh, maybe I should listen.
Right. Yes, you should.
I'm like, yeah, you should. Thanks. That's my supportive big brother. No, so it's like a running joke in our family because him and my dad used to have like throw down fights during family game night. There were games we were not allowed to play in our house during family game night. Risk was one of them.
Oh my
I think
God.
Monopoly was on hiatus for a while.
Mhm.
We ended up having to play like more like party games because we couldn't play like real competitive games because it was just, oh my gosh, the fights that would erupt because of family game night. It was ridiculous. But there's a joke that everybody always tells about like where my dad used to hand him $500 bills between his toes when he was little and losing at Monopoly. He would give him the money so he didn't lose.
Okay.
And I mean, I'm sure if my brother listened to this, he'd be like, well, I'm just good at everything. That's why I don't lose. But I do think that when he was younger, he wasn't allowed to lose, so it's allowed him to have this attitude of very poor sportsmanship.
I'm always the winner.
Yeah, and I think that sometimes as parents we miss that point. When we want to give our kids what they want, what they need, whatever, they for sure need to lose. They for sure need to fail. Because if they're the best always, they're not going to be the best once they get out of their bubble.
Right. Like I said, once you go out into the world and you have to compete with other people and working a job, you're competing.
You are definitely competing. And not only that, but like it goes back to the accountability thing you said. I mean, at work, if something goes wrong, the amount of finger pointing that goes on is just obscene. And it's just like, I mean, I can raise my hand and be like, I mean, if it's my mistake, I'll for sure take credit for it. If it's not my mistake, I don't like getting blamed for things that aren't my fault.
Right.
But I will take blame if it was my mistake.
Right.
Because I mean, not only does it show your maturity, but it shows that like, I mean, all of us are going to make mistakes. Nobody's perfect.
Right.
And I guess I don't think that we expect other grown-ups to be perfect. So if we're raising our children with the expectation that they always need to be perfect, or that we expect them to be perfect, or that they should expect themselves to be perfect, and they can't lose, then we're gonna just, you want to talk about entitled millennials, wait till these kids grow up. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, we kind of gotta just, you have to let your kids fail. You
Right.
do.
Mm-hmm. Well, and one of the things that Sister Cami talked about in the table talks a couple weeks ago is about safe failing. When you allow them to fail around you, you're allowing them to fail safely. Yeah. Where versus if you protect them and make them always think that everything they do is like the perfect way, when they do get out there in the big world, they're gonna fail unsafely.
Well, and it's like the really good example that I thought of when we were going through that lesson. So I know that we kind of briefly have talked about table talk, but just for people who didn't listen to that episode, I'll briefly let you know what it is since we've mentioned it a few times. So our church does these real life application things that, I mean, aren't necessarily quote unquote like religion centric. We do it almost as like an adult Sunday school. It's like an open table, open discussion forum class that we do every Sunday. So that's what table talk is. It's literally what it sounds like.
Right.
But it's like if you raise your kid that they can sing, and you're just like, you sound so amazing, and they don't. When they get to choir in like middle school, whatever,
they're
and
gonna
they
get
just like
laughed,
belt it out, and they sound like a choking canary, and somebody's like, they never get solos, and they, you know, have told to be quiet, and you know, they never get called on to show how to do something. The devastation's gonna be so much worse because then they're gonna think that people just don't like them.
Yeah.
It's not going to be the fact that like they're not good at this, or they need to work harder, or they need to try to do it differently or whatever. They're just literally going to think like, well, they don't like me, that's why.
Right. Well, I mean, you worked so hard to build up their self-image and you'll destroy it in just a matter of
Yep.
of days
Yep.
doing that.
Yeah. So I definitely think that that's one of the good reasons to allow your kids to fail. I also think my kids are the same. So John, I've played Chutes and Ladders with John before, and he's like gotten mad and like hit the board and whatever. Or like we'll play Guess Who, and I'll be like blonde hair, and then we'll get an argument over who has blonde hair, and this is technically light brown.
Oh my God.
Or whatever, because he doesn't like to lose.
Right.
So I can truly say that like I don't really play a lot of games with John.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that necessarily is the best way to do it. But it's hard because there's definitely a certain part of failing that I don't want to see him do.
Right.
And the meltdowns and that sort of stuff, it's just like, are you really learning anything from this?
Right.
Or is it just turned into such a negative experience in your mind now that you're just going to look back on this and be like, Boz mean.
Right.
So, and part of it, I mean, I'm sure that this is probably one of the areas that Mike's probably better with them than I am, because I don't have as much patience as my husband does. But I don't play a lot of win or lose games with them. Mm-hmm. Like we'll play more. We'll play more like we'll wrestle or there's not an actual winner.
Right.
Which I'm sure the argument can be made that that's probably not good for them either. But I don't want to deal with them throwing a fit.
The meltdowns.
So, yeah, and we, we don't play a lot of video games or stuff like that because there's 4 of them. And they're all at different age ranges. We have a hard enough time trying to find a movie to watch during family movie night. 3 hours later, it's like, well, it's too late to watch a movie now.
Right.
Which is why we've just assigned, like, okay, this is John's night. We can watch whatever John wants to watch. This is Malcolm's night. You know what I mean? So, I mean, we would have to do the same things if we played video games or something like that. Mm-hmm. But I suppose the kids are getting to an age where we can start playing, like, board games with them. I think one of the problems with John is John and Malcolm are 3.5 years apart. And I think we started trying to play games with John when he was too young. And then I think we got distracted.
Okay.
By, other children.
Right.
So we never really circled back to it because there were for sure times that, like, I tried to play games with John, he threw a fit, and I was like, I don't have any time for this. And then, like, it's been 3 years and I've never gone back.
Right.
Or 2 years and I've never gone back. So that's definitely on me, but I don't think that I necessarily have a problem with them failing. But it kind of goes back to what I've said before, where I try really hard to teach my kids to have a thick skin. Mm-hmm. And this is one of those areas where I feel like it's really important for them to have a thick skin because you're going to fail.
You are going to fail.
You're not going to make deadlines at work. You're going to get F's on your papers. You're going to fail.
Going to scratch the side of your car.
Yeah, you're going to get in a car accident. Somebody's going to break your heart. There's lots of failures in life that are going to happen that either you do or do not have control over. And I think teaching your kids that when they're young is really important. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I would.
So let me ask you this, because you did bring up the sports question. So let me ask you.
I know what you're going to ask.
How do you feel about participation awards? I'll let you say first, but I'm sure we agree on this as well.
Okay. So I think that there is a big difference between a participation award, like a trophy or a ribbon, and a team memorabilia.
Okay.
So, for example, if people are on a T-ball team and everybody gets like a T-shirt that says they were on the T-ball team, I'm fine with that.
Right.
If everybody gets like a certificate or even a ribbon saying I was a part of the blah 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 team for the 2021 season,
Mm-hmm.
okay, fine. But if they go to a competition and they get an award, like during the award ceremony, they get an award, you know what I mean? Like, I think that there's a big difference between the manner of how they get these things.
Right.
Because I don't have a problem. Like, I'm a very nostalgic person.
Mm-hmm.
So I like having things.
The memories.
Yeah, I like having the memories, and I like having memorabilia.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, to me, I want them to have things like T-shirts and like that sort of stuff. So, like, they'll remember. But the trophy, to give them an award for being there is ridiculous.
Right.
Okay. If everybody who goes to the competition gets like a badge or a notebook or something, you know what I mean? Like, I struggle because I feel like we overcorrected with the trophies, participation trophies.
Mm-hmm.
And now we want to overcorrect and take away everything.
Right.
And it's just like, okay, guys,
balance.
But there are things that are good. Like, if my kid is going to, go to a competition or something, what is the harm in them getting a memento from that?
Right.
Like, they don't need a trophy.
Right.
And I think sometimes it wasn't necessarily ill intent, but they were like, this is your this is your memento, a trophy. And it's like,
right.
But they didn't win.
On stage in front of everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't win. So that's kind of where I stand with that stuff, where I don't have a problem with kids getting mementos or memorabilia for big events. I have a problem with them getting an award for not earning it.
Right.
But how do you feel about it?
I'm pretty much the same. Like, for me, I mean, I played on the volleyball team in school, and like we would do pizza parties or stuff like that after as a team, because we played as a team.
Yeah.
So, but we never got awards just because we went and played.
Yeah. Like, if you had a volleyball awards night, right, it was like 5 people got an award.
Right. And so, and again, it was hard because I was competitive. Mm-hmm. I wanted to be the MVP, and I wanted our team to be the first place team. Yeah. I mean, but it didn't matter. We weren't. So, and I never got the MVP, and people who I feel were undeserving did. And so, it was just, but I think that those are good, valuable lessons that I learned, that if I want those things, back to those questions, is what part did I have in my team being a first place team?
Yeah.
And what can I do differently next time? So I guess that's where I stand, is you shouldn't be getting an award and celebrated if you didn't win.
Yeah. No, for sure.
Hi, this is Melissa from the Messy Bun Mamas podcast, and I want to talk to you today about Anchor. This app, let me be real honest, is basically lifesaver. I got the random idea, on a Tuesday that I wanted to try and hit up my mom friends and try and get a podcast going. And Anchor has made it so smooth. I downloaded this app, at 7 a.m. on a Saturday, got my plug and play microphone, and we were able to go in, record. We had a high quality recording, and it turned out great. And I didn't have to take any of the tutorials or anything like that. So if you haven't heard about Anchor, it's a safe and easy way to make a podcast. It's also free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. And Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and so many more platforms. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership, which is amazing. So I don't have to feel like a failure if nobody listens to me talk. It's everything you need to make a podcast all in one place. For example, we just recorded our first episode and I was already able to go in and remove something really stupid that I said. So download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
So on Sunday, we actually had Sunday school graduation where the kids move from one class to the other and they get awards and whatever. And Malcolm, good old cute dimple face Malcolm, his teacher, it's like a joke now that whenever it's cleanup time, he fights other kids to clean up. Like if he's cleaning up the blocks and somebody comes over to clean up the blocks, he'll beat them down. I'm cleaning up the blocks. So I mean, he doesn't actually beat other kids up, but you know what I'm saying,
right?
So he got an award in his classroom for being the best helper, or the best cleaner upper.
Okay.
And he was so proud, and it was very fitting because he all this year multiple teachers have commented on the fact that he cleans up so well. He's he's always willing to help clean up at the end of class, whatever. Well, when it got to John's class, there were 5 or 6 awards given out, and John's class is 6 to 12-year-olds. So it's a wider age range, so there's a lot more kids in the class. He did not receive an award, and he was upset. And his dad, was just and he was upset for 0.5 seconds. He was just
right.
Oh. And then it just wasn't a big deal to him. John is just, he's not, it kind of goes back to the rewards. He's not motivated by rewards. And I think because of that, he's not really motivated by failure.
Right.
He's not motivated by consequences. So it's not somebody got an award for being the kindest kid in class. And he's oh, I was shooting for that award. I'm going to be the kindest kid this year, so I get the award. That's just not John. He's not motivated by that.
Right.
And I mean, it's just really interesting because I think that failure and awards kind of go hand in hand. And I think the fact that Malcolm got an award for being the best cleaner-upper, he's cleaner-upper all week long.
Right.
So he's all about that life, but John just he doesn't really care. He just,
right.
So I think that it definitely everything comes down to the personality of your kid.
Yeah.
So, but it was so funny because they started giving out the awards, and I'm just if they give out a certificate to every kid in these classes just for being there, I'm gonna be so mad.
Especially because we did have that
just talked about participation trophies. They didn't do that, but I was just sitting there they better not. I'll be so mad. So, but yeah, I do think that I would be hard pressed to find somebody who is okay with a participation trophy. I don't know how that started.
Right.
I'm assuming it's like my parents, because I feel like my parents, like not my specific parents, I mean sometimes my specific parents, but like my specific like Gen X parents were kind of a hot mess.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like they were the ones. Like the kids in the 90s, which were the millennials and were parented by Gen X, those were the ones that got the participation trophy. So we're going to blame Gen X for this one. That was a big nope. Shouldn't have done that. That's how I feel about it. I don't know.
No, it's funny because my parents are very different from that. My parents are very much, you want that, go earn it.
And I'm sure your parents are boomers.
Yeah, 50s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because like 59 is like the last, depending which chart you look at. 59 is about the last
Right.
is about the last boomer. So yeah, I mean, I think how you were raised definitely depends on maybe your mentality of this, but I'm hard pressed to find a millennial parent that's like, yeah, come on, participation trophies. No, we're all just like, we kind of suck as humans. Please stop giving our kids participation trophies.
Right. To me, it's almost an insult. Like,
Yeah.
you're patronizing me.
Kind of. It's just like, what do you want me to do with it? And not only that, but like, they're usually tiny. And it's just like, what do you want me to do? Like, and it says participation award on it. So I'm just like, I'm not displaying this.
Right.
Like,
right. I totally agree.
No, what? Like, throw it in the garbage. Like, I'm not. No.
No, I agree. I think that's my struggle with it, is just that, like you said, we went from one end of the spectrum all the way over, and that's like us. That's a first world country, right? We gotta go all the way overboard on something, and it's like, I think either way you're setting your kid up for failure. Like, if you don't help them realize, like, ask those important questions, like, what part did you play in this? What can you do differently next time? You're setting them up for failure. But if every time they participate in something, whether they win or lose, they get an award, they're like, I'm a winner no matter what I do.
Right.
And that's just not life. I mean, what are they going to do the first time they're at work and it's up time for the annual review and the boss is like, you're not getting a raise because you suck.
But I think it's also important when their team wins to discuss with them how they may have failed.
Exactly, because even though you won,
that doesn't mean that you did your best and you contributed what you should to that team.
I completely agree with this.
So it's like, I feel like that conversation should literally be had all of the time.
Right.
Because there's very few instances that you couldn't have done better.
Well, you look at athletes that, I mean, not just play for big teams, but like compete for the Olympics and things like that. You know that that's something that they work on all the time. How can I do it better?
Right.
I mean, not that you want to be completely obsessive about it.
No.
But again, balance, my favorite word. But I mean, you still want to look at how can you how can I do this better? I mean, it's even being an entrepreneur. It's all right. I did this. It was successful. How can I do it better next time?
Yep.
And so I think you're just said it. I completely agree. What I'm saying, I agree with you, Melissa.
So I think the important thing is it's just always discuss with your kids what they did, how they contributed, how they could have done better, what they did wrong, all those things. Because, like, so there was one time, it's kind of funny. I think it's funny. My mom might not like that I'm telling this story. So she went back to college at one point, and she had to write a paper. And I'm a good paper writer. I'm a good writer of papers. So she had me help her like 3 hours before the paper is due. Okay, and I'm just like, okay, like this is ridiculous. Like nothing is cited in an MLA format. I'm just like, and which is fair because like this is my mother who's like in her 40s or 50s,
Yeah.
I don't remember. But like, come on.
Right.
Like she doesn't know how to MLA cite anything. Like this is not her wheelhouse.
Right.
So I'm going through and like just helping her, trying to get like taking her research because she did a good amount of research. She just didn't know how to go from A to B with the research. So I was helping her, whatever. So we got the paper together and she turned it in. And I was like, you're probably going to get a C. It was about a C paper. It comes back and she got 100. Okay. So I then went to go get my master's in a very like writing heavy program. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot tell you how many papers I got back that were like 100. I hate, maybe this is just me, and I'm sure everybody listening to this is going to roll their eyes like, oh, Melissa, why would you ever give 100 on a paper? You're telling me that there was nothing wrong with this paper? All my points were like substantially proven by my research. There was no grammar errors. There was nothing.
There wasn't
like,
an extra comma
like,
or...
Are you kidding me?
Right.
Like 100. You're telling me that this paper is perfect.
You know what it is you probably just wrote it better than what they've seen other people write.
Exactly.
Right?
I don't want my kids, and like, I'm not saying that I want to be that like stereotypical parent who's like, you got an A, but you don't deserve that A. Like, you got to
work harder, right? Yeah.
Like, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is like, I also don't want
to be patronized.
Laziness on someone else's part to pump up my kid or my mother or myself.
Right.
Like, listen, if I could have done half the work and gotten 100, when my mom was like, I got 100 on that paper, I was like, you what?
Right.
I was so mad. I wanted to call her teacher and be like, listen,
right.
Okay,
I
don't know what kind of show you're running here.
I helped her with a C paper.
This was not
an A++.
No. It was so funny. It was so funny because it's like it, and I mean, there's just been so many times in like my academic career that like I've written something, and maybe I'm too hard on myself. That definitely could be the case, but I mean, I feel like we are still sometimes in that participation trophy mentality because I should never get 100 on a paper in my MBA program.
Right.
It shouldn't happen.
Right.
There's no paper that's perfect.
Especially like a written one.
Yeah.
I agree.
So like even like there are areas which I feel like you can get 100, like a multiple choice quiz.
Math.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. Those are areas where there is black
and white.
There is white.
Yep.
Good. But when there's like inflection and research and whatever, like I need, and I struggle with this sometimes with work too, because I'm just like, they'll be like, you're so amazing. I'm like, I know I'm amazing. I know. But I need constructive criticism.
Right.
Because I'm never going to get better unless you give me constructive criticism. Otherwise, this is the best I'm ever going to be because I'm so fabulous right now.
Right.
And it's like, I know that you have negative things that you want to say to me.
Right.
But you don't want to say them because you're worried that, like,
I'll step out the door, right?
Or like whatever. And like, I don't think that's a good employee-employer relationship anyways. And I don't want my kids to be raised that way, where it's like, if anybody says anything negative to you ever,
walk out the door.
You walk out, or you like throw a fit or whatever. It's like, no, you need to be able to take constructive criticism, because there's a lot to be said about a boss, a teacher, a mentor, a parent, a loved one who's willing to say, like, hey, just so you know, this is an area I think that you're lacking in. And I think, when we talk about failure, we're always like, we automatically go to games and whatever, but that is a real life failure that you have to face of, like, I think, like, a friend coming up to me and going, hey, just so you know, what you said over there was, like, a little rude. That happens to me all the time. I'm kind of rude. And this happened the other day. Somebody came up to me and was like, hey, what you said over there kind of offended people. It was a little rude. And I was just like, whatever, I am who I am.
Right.
And then, like, 10 minutes later, I went up to her and I was like, all right, so I listened to what you're saying and I accept it. I realized that I probably could have handled it a little bit better, both in the moment that offended people and in, you telling me I offended people. So I'll try to watch what I say a little bit more when I'm in a group setting. Now, I'm not saying that I'm perfect by any means, because I definitely am not.
Right.
But that's how my kids need to handle failure.
Right.
Because in that moment is a failure. How you handle it is going to affect your integrity.
Right.
Right? And we all want to raise kids who have integrity.
Right.
Like, so I think that, yeah.
Yeah. I completely agree. It's all in how you handle it. And I'll say that in my younger years, I'm getting better. I did not always, but I think it comes back to, I had started to read a book and I probably should finish it. It's called Thanks for the Feedback. And it actually talks about the giver and the receiver and how each of them handle those situations. And I think that I had one supervisor that gave me really clear, constructive feedback versus just, you suck or you're good.
Yeah.
It was.
Well, they always have these, like, breakdowns in these charts and they're just like 3. And I'm like, can you give me specific examples so I can work on it?
Right.
No, you're just a 3.
Right. And so, I have not always responded well because I'm an emotional person. I will respond with my emotions. And again, it's something I've been working on. I'm still not good. I'm better. I'm trying to learn the balance of this is what I want and go ahead and just roll right over me. But
we're working on it.
And so I guess I'm kind of the same way as I used to be the whatever jerks, this is who I am. And so I have tried to work on that.
Yeah.
But I agree. I want my son to be able to handle it if someone comes back to him. And I want to also teach him to say, hey, your feedback isn't constructive feedback, because I think
or not complete,
or because I think that brings the balance is, all right, you want to tell me I suck at my job, give me constructive feedback, or as you said, how can I do better? What do you want to see from me?
Yeah, not just you're not doing well,
right?
Because that's not helpful to anybody,
right? So I don't know. I guess that's where I am. Like I said, I didn't want to present a whole lot of feedback because really the experts say it's good to let your kids fail.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to, I guess, talk it out.
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, it's not like you're saying that, like, if he dies at Mario 4,000 times and gets upset, that you need to sit down with him and be like, all right, buddy, so how could we have beat that level of Mario in a more efficient manner? Like, that's for sure not what we're saying.
You don't play. That's how mommy gets.
And the truth comes out.
I don't say that to him, everybody. I say, let's take a breather.
But that's why she's losing. It's because Joe is playing also.
Right.
All right. Well,
my accountability. But no, I get what you're saying. It's the real life things of,
yeah.
hey, you tried doing that. You don't suck. You're learning. Let's talk about how you can do it better. And we actually had a discussion with him this last week. He got upset with me because he's been asking for Paper Mario, and we have Paper Mario on our Wii. We don't have it on the Switch, and I hate having to pull out the TV console and switch everything out. It's just, that's more work than I choose to do.
That's bananas.
So his dad is like, all right, we'll buy it for him, but because he has his reward system for doing school that we've discussed in previous issues, he has to, when I have him earn a book, he has to earn 100 stars. And so his dad says, but he has to earn 200 stars. So I got the paperwork out for it. I was all ready with my paper and stickers and stapled it together. And Joe got upset when I told him he had to earn it. And because he wants that instant gratification, right?
He's a child.
Right. And so, but one of the things that we struggle with his school, as we discussed in that other episode, is that he knows how to do something. It's just he doesn't want to do it right because it's not fun or whatever. And so I told him, you're going to have to earn it. And he got mad at me, and I said, all right, well, your daddy's in the shower. Once he's out, you can discuss this with him. And so when Dan got done, I said, hey, Daddy, Joe wants to talk to you. And Joe instantly burst into tears and just, no, I don't want to talk to him. I don't want to talk to him. I don't want to talk to him. And so I said, Joe, just go talk to Daddy about this like you did with Mommy, and let Daddy talk to you. And so I thought I kind of related that to the whole same experiences of how helping him help deal with his emotions in a healthy way of, you're not getting what you want right away, but that doesn't mean we can't talk about it.
Well, and I think it was important for you to encourage him to talk to his dad as well, because otherwise he's going to make you the bad guy.
Right.
Maybe that's selfish.
I'm very good about diverting.
No, you need to be equally as mad at Daddy.
So I guess that's just where I am with the episode. And it's just that we want other parents to know that they're not alone in that struggle of trying to balance everything out with.
Yeah. How to let your kid fail.
Yeah. So
fair.
So let's talk about our recommendations. What's your recommendation for this week?
All right. So my recommendation is actually an Instagram profile that we follow.
Okay.
It's called Unboard My Child.
I love that one.
And so it was funny because I was looking at it. I was like, oh, they don't have that, like, a ton of stuff. They have like 82 posts or whatever. But her posts are just like super unique and super fun. And she actually has an Etsy store that, like, some of the more unique things she actually sells.
Okay.
So we'll put a link in our
show notes
about it. But like the ones that I love were like, she's got a construction site with noodles, and like all the sensory bin stuff that's in there is all made out of noodles. Like she's got some noodles that are like basically boulders, and then she's got noodles that are gravel, and it's just like she does such a good job at making unique things. She does use a lot of, like, you know, shapes and that sort of stuff too. So she's got a lot of really good craft ideas and really good
they're simple.
They're simple and easy, which is, I'm all about that life. I'm not trying to make like a 4,000 year plan for me. Like, that sounds horrible.
I don't want to spend a whole night cutting out things to...
Exactly. But like, she made a bubble gun out of a water bottle the other day. Okay. So she cut the water bottle, covered it with a washcloth at the bottom, which was held together with an elastic band, which is a ponytail.
Right.
Okay. You dip the water bottle in a bowl of bubbles and then you blow. That's it. And then the kid takes the water bottle, puts it in their mouth, and they blow out, and it's like a bubble gun that just comes out. Like, how I have all of those things in my house.
Right.
I'm like, wow, I can do it.
Right.
Like,
I don't even need to go to the
I
Dollar
don't
Tree.
even need to go anywhere. So, yeah, I will, we'll definitely, when this episode goes live, we'll feature her a little bit more. But it's a really good, just simple, easy, fun things to do with your kids. And it's practical.
Mhm.
I don't have to go buy like a $40 item to use once and just be like, oh, that didn't work.
Right. So my recommendation for this week, and I was struggling because I was like, man, I can't remember if I recommended this before, but I don't think that I have. I think I've recommended like following them on Facebook or something, but the Big Life Kids podcast.
Okay.
So I'm forcing myself to listen to more stuff because I've been doing reading as well, but I'm like, I can really listen to stuff while I'm doing other things and I'm not utilizing my time. So, but I really love, even on social media, the Big Life Kids stuff, just because they talk about helping your kids handle their emotions. And as I said earlier in the show, I'm like a super emotional person. Like I'll cry, shout, scream, all
the things.
Like at 120%. And Joe is very much the same way. So not only do I find it helpful with helping him walk through some things, I find it helpful for myself.
This is how I learned to deal with my emotions.
I mean, it does say Big Life Kids podcast. So I mean, I'm big and I'm in life. Well, maybe a little bit
call
of a kid.
Me childlike.
So I just really, mental health is really important to me. And so I always appreciate those things that focus on not just adults' mental health, but look at kids' mental health as well and help you to help guide them into a healthier life than maybe what you had growing up. So
right. So true.
So that's my my recommendation. But we want to thank you for listening to us again. Of course, you can always find us on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn, Pinterest, YouTube. At the
Messy Bun Mamas Podcast.
And then you can find us on Twitter at
Bun_podcast.
Yeah.
You can also email us at messybunmamaspodcast@gmail.com or hit up our website at www.messybunmamaspodcast.com. Thank you for joining us.
Have a great week.
I am Messy Bun Heads.
This is Messy Bun Mama's podcast.
This is Messy Poop.
Messy buns, you silly.